Cool. Here we go. Podcast episode number 31. Lead Up Podcast, connecting with dope, that's new, dope and diverse leaders to learn more about their leadership journey and how you can level up your leadership game. And I'm here with the legend. He might not consider himself a legend. He's already shaking his head. Keylen Newsome. What's going on, brother?
Appreciate it, Renato.
Yes, sir. So Keylen, I know we've been talking about this for a little bit back and forth, probably when I first started. So thank you for making some time to do this, man.
Yeah, I told you I wanted to be on a long time ago, but it's okay.
I had to wait for the lights, man. I had to wait for the setup, man.
It.
So for the people that don't know who you are, maybe just share who is Keylen Newsome. Tell us a little bit about who you are.
Yeah, first and foremost, just follower of Christ and just a young kid. Grew up in South Sacramento.
Shout out to South Sac.
Man, shout out to South Sac, man. That's my city. And man, I am, I made it out and it wasn't anything I deserved. It was just by grace and the community that surrounded me that I made it out of that and I'm still there, right? But have been able to be in that community and make an impact. So that's who I am. That's what drives me. Is my community, right? And seeing that there's still change that needs to be made, influence that needs to be had, and so that's who I am, and that's Keylen.
One thing that I appreciated about you when I first met you, Keylen. Fun fact: Keylen and I used to be each other's bosses.
Yeah,
we'll maybe
depending on the day of the week.
We'll probably share that story later on, but that's always a fun inside joke. But one thing I appreciate about you was your level of maturity.
Yeah.
I would say character as well, for someone being so young. I know you get clowned around like, Keylen acting like he's 40, but you're young, right?
Yeah.
You're young dude, but your level of character and maturity. I'm curious, man, was that always there? Where did that come from? What would you say attributed to that?
Yeah, I attribute a lot of that to just the way I was brought up. Like I said, my story, a little bit more about who I am, just raised by a single mom, right? That's not anything, peculiar, unfortunately, but that was my reality, right? I grew up with a single mom and watched her, really try to raise me by herself, putting herself through school. And so a lot of times, I'm bouncing around from house to house, being taken care of by, different people. And so I just spent a lot of time just on my own, having to really just kind of grow up, having to really just kind of deal with the things that came in life, just at an early age. Got exposed to a lot of different things just in the community. Mm-hmm. And so I think because of all of that and just the way I'm wired, the way my mom raised me, she always spoke to me, right, knowing that she was raising a young man, and not, raising me to be a boy, right, but knowing hey, you're going to be a man, right, one day. And so I'm raising you for that to the best that she could. And so I think that and like I said, in tandem with just my personality and the way I am, I think that has really kind of made me the way I am today.
Yeah. That's dope, man. So talking a little bit more about your journey and, someone that wasn't from Sacramento, South Sacramento, new to the area, but that's kind of where in some ways, our journeys kind of collided. And I'm curious, man, just talking about, can you recall like a significant event or moment or maybe even a person that really impacted your leadership, because this, for the longest time and, having talked to other people, I wouldn't have considered myself a leader, right? Yeah. Whether it was just naturally because of a title or a position, but there are leadership traits and characteristics that we all have. And I saw that, outside of work for yourself as well. And I know I'm going to ask about that later on, but I'm just curious, is there something that you can recall within your own journey that really impacted you, that's like really shaped you even to now?
Yeah. I think as a leader, again, going back to watching the way my mom did it, right? I mean, with no handouts, right? I mean, she put herself through everything that she had to, right, to make sure I had what I needed. And so watching her lead, right, in that way, sacrificially, right, first and foremost, right, that sacrificial, right, serving, meeting all of my needs, right, above her own, was one of the things that made the biggest profound influence on me. And I think just by God's grace, man, throughout my entire life, I've just had different people at different points in my life that have played a pivotal role. It's never been one person, while I wish it would have been, hey, I had that one guy my entire life, right? That was kind of that. It wasn't that, but that's okay, right? Because it was different people at different time. It was coaches, it was mentors, it was, family, right, at different times, uncles and different things like that just throughout my life, right, served a particular purpose. And I just see it in hindsight, right? Like, man, I really needed this at that point, and it was provided. And so it's been by committee, in my life, man, really, which is a trip. So
damn, yeah, no, that's real. I mean, there's definitely been people in my life, whether it's a short season, long-term season, in and out of seasons, right? Where we're still connected, even though we're not working together. There's things that people have done that continue to do where it still impacts me today.
Yeah.
I'm curious now, like, being a little bit older, right? You're a professional, right? You graduated college. How are those experiences, or what are you doing to kind of continue to make an impact in your community?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is recently just made a big leap and just switching career paths, really breaking into an industry where, just a lot of guys that come from where I come from, frankly, just aren't aware of. I mean, honestly, most people aren't aware of. And so for me, it was like, hey, I'm doing this right for me, but also to carve out another pathway, right, for guys that come from where I come from. I got some things in the works even now of being able to really materialize that and bring this knowledge and awareness in this game right back to my community.
Can you share a little bit about the industry, or maybe even about the little transition? Because transitions, as I've noticed even more, and last week when I was talking to Jade, she experienced and shared a lot of the transitions in her life, right? Which is awesome. Sometimes people think transitions are bad. Yeah. It might be bad for their situation, or it could be bad for whatever it can be, but transitions are good. I think it's expansion, right? Opportunities for more things, right? And so I'm curious, just maybe if you can dive deeper, just a little bit into that. Yeah.
So just recently transitioned into underwriting. So now I'm working in insurance, commercial insurance, and so that's a complete 180 shift, right? From working in a nonprofit, community based, to now, for profit, right? Big corporate. But like I said, man, like it's just one of those things where, probably most of the people that's even listening to this now, man, like most people don't even know what an underwriter is, right? Like,
I did.
You know what I'm saying?
Like, what are you doing?
But it's like, but they're everywhere, right? Every time you take out an insurance policy, right? Like that, that's a part of that. So that's what I'm doing now, in the commercial industry. And so, there's way too much information that's probably not needed, but ultimately, but like I was saying, like for that industry to be as lucrative, I mean, here's an interesting fact, Renato. Insurance accounts for about 6% or more of America's total GDP, right? It's probably the least known about industry, though, to be as big as it is, right? And as much income that comes through that industry, like very few people know about it. And so it wasn't until people that I was around that really put me on to the opportunities over there. And I'm just like, this is like a hidden gem, like that nobody knows about, nobody's talking about. There's some real opportunities here. And so that, like I said, that was what it was for me, and making that transition. Yeah. And to kind of keep going a little further, I know you've only been there for a couple months now, about 4 months. Yeah. What have you noticed in your transition? New environment, new people, new work. What has changed about yourself? Maybe even your own leadership, or tell me what's going on, man. Yeah, I'm back outside the comfort zone, man. Yeah. It is. It's interesting because when we first met, that was one of my early on stages of really being pushed right beyond my comfort zone, right? Going from, I mean, I was a year removed out of high school, right? And
qualified.
and,
You'll get that later.
And literally was pushed into this role of like as leadership in this nonprofit, right? Leading this campus, along with yourself. And so like that was that. And so then doing that for 5 years, right, is kind of like, 4 or 5 years in, I'm like, I know this stuff, right, like the back of my hand. Mm-hmm. I know how to get to jobs. I know what's what and all that kind of stuff. And so you get comfortable, right? Mm-hmm. And it's comfortability isn't necessarily a bad thing, right? It's good when you get to a point to where you know what you're doing. You want to get to a point to where you're confident, right, when you're doing something. But again, right, know that you're not necessarily growing, right, when you're in that place. Yeah. Okay. And so you got to be, and so maybe you're comfortable in one place, but if you want to continue to be growing, right, you got to continue pushing yourself in other areas. Really is the point. And so for me, it was stepping out of that, right, is what officially put me into a whole new way outside of my comfort zone. Yeah. And so it was just a shift from, hey, I know this stuff like the back of my hand to I don't know the first thing about this. Like I can spell insurance, but that's about the most I got to offer. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so it really has put me in a place where I'm having to really challenge myself at a new level. Yeah. Where you start having those questions of, can I do this? Right. That's when it's like, hey, now you're being pushed. Yeah. So that's really what this has meant for me, and just a paradigm shift of going from nonprofit to for-profit, and the goals are different, and the way things are looked at is different. And it's like, okay, you got a little bit of heat under you, right? Because you got to pull your weight. Like at the end of the day, it's the numbers. And so that's been a paradigm shift, but all of it, I mean, I think it's been for the good so far. Yeah. How
has it changed kind of like maybe outlook of what you see for yourself? I know you mentioned things materializing for the community. Like, what are you seeing things differently now? Or are you just kind of, what's different, I guess, in terms of, whether questions you're asking, goals that you're seeking, areas that you can fill in gaps in, even beyond work?
Yeah. I think there's, like I said earlier, I think there's a lot of opportunities still there. And I think it's one of those things where being able to bring both of my experiences together, right, and seeing all that can be done in that intersecting space of, hey, bringing this world of of this profit world where there's all these opportunities that a lot of people don't know about, to connecting that to my community roots. So I think it's still materializing, right? I'm still finding my footing where I'm at now. Yeah. But I think long term, right, like I hope to be a part of just a move, right, of just educating right our communities, coming into this job. And I told him early on, I said, the biggest thing that, I'm one of the biggest things I'm interested in is that, where I come from, right, we don't need any more handouts, right? We don't need anybody to give anything to us. But I said, the biggest thing is that there's a lack of education, right? There's a lack of awareness of opportunity that's out there. Yeah. And I said, that's something I want to change. Yeah. Right. Like I don't need you guys to come in and just donate a whole bunch of money. You guys can, that's fine. But the biggest thing is that if we can teach kids like, if you don't make it in sports, that's fine. Right. Because there's this career path where you can take care of your entire family. Right. And it's just like, so I see something coming together there. And who knows what else, man.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. Even we're seeing it before our very own eyes with, during this time of the pandemic, education system changing, students, doing school from home. Right. And a lot of changes even in that, even in the space that I'm currently still in and what I do. But a lot of that's changed even within, you think about, sports and esports now, and guys like being involved of like starting their own businesses, right? And that whole paradigm is shifting as well, which is exciting. It was concerning at first because it's like so used to the traditional way. Yeah. But now it's seeing the innovation, the creativity, and just again the opportunities are there. It's just finding them, and kind of like you found this new opportunity. And I'm curious, because you mentioned education. And what I want to ask is like, what are things that you do to kind of stay on top of like, whether, staying informed, being resourceful, how are you, making sure that you're staying current with what's going on, if that makes sense, right? Like, are you reading books? What podcasts or where are you getting information to be like, all right, this is how I can make the next move. This is how I can, invest or prepare for the next thing. Does that make sense?
Are you saying like in terms of just where I'm at now in terms of the industry?
Just either in your professional, personal life. I know a lot of, again, I kind of always tie it back to the people that I help, but also even peers or people that I look up to, looking, whether it's a side hustle or just like, playing the long game for something. What books are people reading? Which speakers or, conferences, like what are they doing to stay sharp?
Yeah. Like I said, I'm really new, like literally 4 months into insurance, man. So right now I'm really continuing to establish myself and learning, right? So they have us going through just different courses and things that you have to do to get licensed and different things like that. And so things like that, right? And asking questions, man. I have so many different people at my available to me that have so much knowledge and experience. And so being around those individuals, asking those questions is really the biggest thing, is being resourceful right in the space. I mean, I have a ton of resources right now. And so for me, it's about leveraging, right, whether it be classes, seminars. I mean, through this pandemic, one of the things that they highlighted, as I was coming in, is that this pandemic really has helped everyone be able to better get their resources out, right? Because we're using, online platforms for webinars and seminars, whereas, 10 years ago, man, I would have had to, maybe catch a flight to the East Coast, right? To get some information. Right now, we're sharing this stuff at a much higher rate, man, and more efficiently. And so, man, just taking advantage of all those things, right? Every single learning opportunity, every single, like I said, webinar, training, right? Just informing and educating myself about, more about just industry and how to continue to progress. Yeah. No,
that's dope, man. Kind of shifting gears a little bit more about who you are in terms of as a leader. What are some of the values that are most important to you as a leader? Like, what would you say is like your leadership philosophy, how you conduct yourself on a day-to-day?
Yeah, I take my cues from the greatest leader of all time, right? Christ. And that is
shout out to Jesus.
Hey, amen, brother. But that's servant leadership, right? Is exemplified. Is servant leadership. Really having this conviction about my purpose, right? Is to serve people. Yeah. Right. Is like I lead best by serving people. Yeah. Right. And I think one of the big things of leadership is that you want to be able to say to those who are following you is that I would be happy if you looked similar to the way I do, if you conduct yourself similar to the way I do. And so when I think of that, I'm like, yeah, what is the most important character trait, right, or quality that I would want somebody to look at me and say, hey, I want to follow him because of that, right? And it's because, and I wanted that to be because of the way I serve, right, people. And so I think again, that's probably the most important thing, is just servant leadership.
Yeah, no, that's dope. Yeah, servant leadership. I know when I was hearing about it in my grad school program, it was something that it was a nice fluffy word or terminology, right? Like, whether it's institutions or organizations using that word, servant leadership, it wasn't really shown. So for me, I bring it up again because you just mentioned it. Like, I saw that in you, right? So it's like not just saying it, but you're walking it out, which is a true sign of leadership, whether it's servant or, being your authentic self. So I think that's huge, man. Another question I want to ask, and it doesn't have to be about your transition, but, can you recall like a difficult decision that you had to make when you were a leader, and what happened? How did you come to that decision?
Yeah. to not get in too much detail, basically,
right. Exclusive.
Yeah. It is exclusive. I haven't talked about it publicly yet.
Right.
But basically, 2020, I had left the previous church that I was at. And long story short, it was a time where my conviction around just my virtues, right, and my morals, right, were really being tested and challenged to where it was, hey, you're in a point where you're making a critical decision, right? Because either you're going to stand, right, for what it is you believe, right, and be firm in your conviction,
Yep.
right, or you're going to acquiesce, right, whether it be because of the fear of man, whether it be because of trying to please people, right, or whether it be just out of fear in general, right. And so that was a defining moment for me in the 2020 there, where it was like I had to look myself in the mirror and say, Keylen, like yeah, you have all of this responsibility, right? You're up high, and so the fall is going to be long. But it was like, yeah, it's either that, right? It's either you fall, right, on the it's either you die on the hill that you believe in, right, or you just continue to beat to the beat of a drum that you don't believe in. And so it was that was a pivotal moment for me of being able to say, no, I'm going to stand for what I believe in, what I know is right.
Yeah. Was it hard? And I love that you brought up the, again, someone that is a man of faith as well.
Yeah.
I think very early on too, as a young professional, I struggled at times how faith and work and all that stuff kind of how I show up like that, because it's a part of who I am, but because of separation or just, thankfully, when I'm still a part of, I have people of faith as well, but I can't always assume just because of a label or what you say. Again, going back to how people walk their lives out. So I'm curious, just you bringing it up. Did you ever have struggles in terms of like, with your faith, in terms of whether it's in the professional setting or just like how to navigate spaces? Because that could be kind of a tricky line sometimes. Maybe it's just me, but I know that's something that I've appreciated about you again, but other people that, are authentically themselves.
Yeah. I think it's something that I am increasingly trying to take the gloves off with, so to speak, right? Because it's like, if I believe, that what I believe is true, I do a disservice to people by not sharing, right, this truth. And so I think for me, man, it's really become something that I'm hyper aware of, of actually looking for opportunities, right, to really explain to people why, who I am, why I am the way I am. Whether it be with coworkers or, before it was with students, right? Of like, hey, like there's more to this, right? There's a bigger picture right here. And so like, if I know that, right, I don't do you any service, by hiding that, right? And so, like I said, increasingly, I'm really working to take the gloves off and just be honest. Like, hey, like this is what I believe is true, right? And, and so, and I think this can help a lot of people.
For sure. Man, we start kind of landing the plane. I want to get to the lightning round, which is something I'm excited about. But I'm curious, man, just what is next for you? What is something that you're kind of still exploring about yourself? Or there was something I wanted to ask. This is off the top, too. What is a lesson that you've learned recently about yourself that maybe that's changed maybe in the past year or two, or even just during this time that in your transition? What is like a lesson that you've learned that's like still with you today?
Man, there have been so many lessons. I think the biggest thing is I've learned a lot more about myself, right? There's people think that they know themselves, and we have an idea of who we are, right? And then life happens, right? And different things hit us in the mouth, right? And so you begin to kind of see who you are. And so I think that the biggest thing that lesson I've learned recently has really just been like, one, how self-aware I actually wasn't, right? But right before, the last couple of years where I went through a variety of different things that really began to just kind of expose myself to myself. And I had to get honest with myself a few times. And so I think in that I've really learned whether it be just some character flaws or just some errors that I really just need to improve. To where it's like I can be way more honest about myself, because I have things I can look back to and say, Keylen, like the way you handled that or the way that you approached that, like was off, man. So like let's sit with that, right? And really consider what does it look like, right, for you to I guess to grow right in this area. And I think that's been the biggest thing, is just knowing myself more.
Before we transition to the lightning round, what is like a piece of advice for someone that's listening, maybe just listening to your story, thinking about transitioning, or just having to make a difficult decision like you were sharing about yours? What's a piece of advice that you would give to someone listening in?
The piece of advice I would give, first and foremost, is the gospel. I'm sorry, Renata, you can cut this out if necessary,
come on,
man. Yeah, it's a gospel, right? Because I think I think the mistake that a lot of people make is, and I honestly don't think I'm that great, and so you mentioned that earlier. But he's humble, yeah. But when people are listening to somebody else and they see like, oh man, like he's doing something I'm gonna do, or like I just see, oh man, like he's got it right. I think the mistake a lot of people make is people assume that, oh man, he's gotten to this place, because of just the way he is, or the way that he's worked, or the way that, the decisions he's made. And so I hear that a lot, right? People would give me all this praise of like, man, you did this, this, and this, and you only, 24. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not that great. It really was just a lot of grace, man. A lot of the grace of God, man, that put different people in my life, that put me in different opportunities, that kept me away from a lot of things. Right. Like people don't realize like how easily my life really could have turned left, man. Like I was at a point in life where I was on the verge of really setting my life in a direction that would have put me polar opposite of where I am today. Wow. And it was literally the fact that like my mom, around that age, like just snatched me up and put me into the church, man. And, you know what I mean? Like that, I honestly think like that was just God at work, man, just saving me from myself, my own destruction. Yeah. You know what I mean? So like that's the biggest thing, is like don't assume I'm here, just because I made all the right decisions and made the right moves. It's been a lot of grace. And so we have to understand where that comes from. For sure. Yeah.
Church. Yeah. Word. Offerings will be sent to his Cash App, Venmo, Zelle, if you got Zelle. I'm just messing with you. But cool. Let's move on to the lightning round questions. This is something that Jade was the first guest to go through this. So you'll be the next guest to go through. So it's just the first thing that comes to mind, right? I'm just going to ask a series of questions, something light. It's going to go a little bit deeper, right? This or that. So you ready?
Let's do it.
And then we're going to do a freestyle at the end.
Let's go.
No, I'm just kidding. All right, here we go. Just something simple. Favorite snack?
Man, if I'm really wilding out, I'm going to go Sour Patch Kids.
I had a feeling you were going to say that. Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Artist or song that is currently on repeat?
Man, I've been pretty silent on that, man.
I had a feeling you were going to say that too.
Yeah, I haven't been bumping anybody.
Wow.
No.
Okay.
Like I've been really on. I got a few podcasts that I'm in, and
there you go. What's a podcast that you've been listening to?
Man, I got a couple. One of them is called For the Gospel. Another one is called The Bar Podcast, and
Lead Up.
Yeah,
I guess not. I didn't make the cut. It's okay. It's all good. It's all good. Hopefully, maybe this episode will change his mind.
Yeah, now that you got me on, now
right.
I'm gonna add
it's all part of the marketing.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Next one. Weirdest nickname someone has given you.
Kiki. So here's.
Do you love me?
Yeah.
Golly.
Yeah, it was from your boss, man.
But yeah, that makes sense.
but no, the reason why that's weird, is because my sister's nickname is Kiki, so it bothers me.
No,
weird. So I'm
that's
like,
weird.
I can't be Kiki, right? Because that's my sister. So that's like the weirdest thing outside of people pronouncing my name terribly wrong.
Got you.
Yeah.
All right, next one. Steph or LeBron?
Steph. I mean, listen. Yeah.
That's why I got him on the show, man.
Listen,
come on.
As a kid, I was a LeBron fan. Like I had the LeBrons, the first LeBrons
David.
when they came out. Yeah, David gonna hate me for this one, but he knows.
Yeah.
But no, I like Steph because I feel like Steph was the people's champ.
Yeah.
Like growing up, I there was no chance I was ever gonna be LeBron. At 5'8". And not that athletic, but it was like Steph was like everybody. Part of people feels like they could be Steph because, like, if I just had the jumper, I could be Steph.
Right.
Even though we couldn't. But, yeah, I feel like Steph's the people's champ.
For sure. I agree. 100%. Most used emoji icon.
Laughing, crying emoji.
There you go.
Yeah.
I can see that. All right, here we go. Alpha Bliss or K-Rec?
Alpha Bliss.
Oh,
without a shadow of a doubt.
Okay. Shout out to the Bliss.
Shout out to Alpha Bliss.
Person who inspires you the most. Besides Jesus.
Yeah. Person. And I don't have a single person that inspires me the most. I mean, all in all, I would have to say, man, just I guess my mom.
Mm-hmm.
Not that it's just that she just inspires me, but I really have sought to make her proud and let her know that like her sacrifice is worthwhile.
For sure.
Throughout my entire life. So I would say that probably is what drives me the most.
Yep. Cool.
Yeah.
A pet peeve.
Man, knocking on doors. So when I was in college, my first year in college, we stayed in the dorms, had his roommate right across the hall. He would knock on our door every day, about 7 times a day. And so I just got to a point where like if I hear like repetitive, like knocking on the door, like it irks me. Mm-hmm. I don't know why. Well, I do know why, but yeah.
If your life was a mixtape, what would be the title?
Life was a mixtape. Good Kid, Mad City.
Ooh, okay. I like that. All right, here we go. This is the last one. Just to fill in the statement. Every leader needs
someone to follow.
There you have it. Keylen Newsome, y'all. Episode 31, Lead Up Podcast. Keylen, thank you so much for being here.
Appreciate you, Nato.
See y'all on the next episode. Lead Up.
We official.
Yes, sir.